In this assignment, you'll be creating all the artwork from scratch or providing your own artwork to create an animated rigged character, a background image, and I actually have some elements as a foreground image so that the character can go behind certain objects. So you will be required to at least have one foreground object and a background that fills the screen, and of course an animated rigged character. So let me just go over this. I'll actually just play it right now. I'm just going to test this in the browser. And what you'll have here again is the scene with the animated character. I want you to have it beginning in a static form just as you see it here. And have a play button. I want you to animate the play button shimmering like I have here. And once you click it, provide 10 seconds of animation of your little guy dancing to the music. You can use the provided audio track or you can provide your own. Just create a 10-second clip of music and that's what you'll import into Animate. So let me hit the play button now. And again, various dancing. So now he's behind certain objects and then back in front. So this couch and this table are actually part of the foreground. And if he goes over here, he will actually be behind the couch. Okay, I'll play it back one more time. And I'm just using some generic beats here. I will provide this track, but you may use your own if you like. Okay. So again, a rigged character. So let me go back to the files and show you what you need to do. I'm just going to switch over to Animate. I do want you to create it from scratch. Now, having said that, if you don't want to draw your own character elements, you can derive them from somewhere and turn them into vector or keep them as PNG elements with a transparent background. Let me click over to this file and just show you what you need to create. So from scratch, I want you to create all these body parts. Okay, or derive them from somewhere and put it together. So each one of these are turned into symbols. In this case, they are graphic symbols. Movie clips works as well, but graphic symbols is probably appropriate. Now, one thing I'm going to point out here as well, I'm going to zoom up here, is that I went ahead on all of these elements and moved the center point to be where the axis is. Now this would have to be all pulled together. So for example, like I would position that there and position the hand over here and move the center point because that will be the rotating axis that that limb will rotate around. Okay, so put the whole thing together once you've drawn or created all these parts. You can create them in Photoshop as PNGs or create them from scratch in Animate, or import them as vectors from Animate, Illustrator, things you derived from the web. Okay, so if I just zoom out here a bit, so you will need a head, a neck, the upper arms, the lower arms, the hands, a chest, a torso or pelvis, upper legs, lower legs, and feet. Okay, but again, go around and position these center points to where the swivel point will be. Then go to your preferences. On the Mac it's over here. I believe it's under Edit on the PC. Go to your drawing category and make sure IK Bone Tool is unchecked to use that method. Okay? And then when you're linking them up with the bones, and I'll remind you if your bones isn't currently available in your tools, you can go to the three dots, drag it from the tools into the tool set. Okay, so I've got my bones here. So I would probably typically start from the torso and drag my bone over to the chest, and then from the chest over to the upper arm, and then from the upper arm to the lower arm, from the lower arm to the hand. Now to move these parts around, I will remind you, you can move them and adjust their location with the free transform tool. Okay, so I'm not going to finish this rig here and I'm not going to put it all together, but that's what you have to do to begin with, right? And it will create an armature layer as you see here. Okay, so then moving over to my finished file, let me talk about the different layers. got a background layer. If I hide that, you will see that that's that scenery. I've got my armature, which is my rigged robot. And if I click on it, you'll see all the rigs. And I do recommend when you choose the bones, let me just go back to my selection tool here, that you set your frame to wire. That will show you the head of the bone as the wider end of that triangle, if you will. Okay. Don't have to, but I think it makes it easier for you. All right, and then rig all of that together. And then I have this couch masked because I derived it from the bigger image. You don't necessarily need to use a mask, but I do want you to have a foreground element. Okay, so if I turn this off, you can see it's a little darker. But right here, again, if I unlock this, you can see the mask where the area exists. Okay, so this is a foreground element. Then the song itself. Start the song in a keyframe on frame 2, please. Then a layer for the button. And the button will only exist on frame 1, so it's keyframed and separated from the rest. And the button will be, if I go over to my actions, simply on a mouse click, play. And you can see it here. We do have a stop command as well in that initial first frame in my actions layer. And then a button with a, well, of course, which will have a instance name. And using the wizard, I just said on mouse click, play. All right. And that triggers the playhead, and it continues on from here. And it's from here that you will create 10 seconds worth of spanning, which should match up with your music. If you have to cut it off, cut it off. But I'm saying roughly 10 seconds, give or take a few frames. And then go through and try to sync up to the music. Try to make it, relevant. Make the animation match the music if you can. So you're going to create a whole bunch of keyframes. What I started was I went to where I could see the beat starts, and I just keyframed it. Just put a whole bunch of keyframes in. Then I went back and revisited each keyframe and went in and did my animation. Okay? And that's what you'll need to do over 10 seconds. I would say consider this a potential portfolio piece if you do a really nice job. Okay, so you're going to have 2 classes to work on this, creating it from scratch, or at least providing your own content. So you will need to provide a background image, whether you draw it or derive it. Could even be a photograph as far as that goes. You will create a rigged character. Again, if I go back here with all of these parts, then you'll rig it together. Again, you can keep these elements as vector or create them as vector, but ultimately turn each body part into a symbol, convert to symbol. And I went and I made them graphic symbols. Okay. Once you have all that done, you can start to build the scene up, span it out, and animate it. Okay, so frame 1 has the button. Button is animated. If I go into the button here very quickly, let me just zoom up on that actually. If I double click on the button, you can see that I have an animated shimmer inside the button. So I do want your button to be animated with some kind of pulsating color, if you will. When we click that button, the playhead gets triggered to play, and it plays the song as well as the animation. Now, with respect to the song, I'm going to suggest on the first frame, when you choose the song, set your sync to stream. Okay? And that's pretty well the full range of instructions. There is no step-by-step in this one. We already did this exercise previously. So on your own, I want you to create this little mini project from scratch. And again, I'm just going to go fit in window here, where you have a dancing character. If you want to put your own head on it, like I did in my assignment, feel free. But whatever it is, right, a dancing character. It could be an animal. If you want to go 4-legged, that would be acceptable too. Just have the same number of limbs and body parts, please. Okay, and that's your assignment, and you have 2 classes to complete that. I will be available to help you during class time. So once again, let me just go back out to Firefox and play that back one more time. Okay, syncing to the music, having some foreground elements, a background scene, and a rigged character. And there we go. Just hand that into Canvas when you've completed the work.